Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this call. My name is Kevin Doherty. I'm the UK Manufacturing Sales Manager here at Symmetry. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on how to monitor your license usage and plan for your future needs. If at any time during the session you have questions, please ask them in the GoToWebinar chat, and we'll endeavour to answer those at the end. But firstly, a bit about Symmetry. Who are we and what do we do? Well, we're a global provider of design and data management solutions to companies in the architecture, engineering, construction and manufacturing industries. Reporting to the Adnode Group, we total over 750 people worldwide with revenues in excess of 260 million. And every day, we challenge people to work smarter for a better and more sustainable future. Our customers span a broad spectrum of industries and disciplines, from tea bag manufacturers, prestigious supercar developers, and organisations and supply chains that design, build and operate hospitals, airports, infrastructures and nuclear facilities and other critical infrastructure. Now, although these might seem like very diverse organisations, they all have one thing in common. They all invest in software assets to perform their day-to-day operations and deliver a quality product or service to their clients. And with increasing costs, such as raw materials and fuels, as we're all very much aware of and experiencing, there is increasing pressure on all companies to reduce any excess spend without having an adverse operational impact. So how does having a clear understanding of software usage fit into this? Well, think about the total amount your company spends on software in a single year. So for some of you, it might be in the thousands, others in the tens, maybe hundreds of thousands, and possibly some of you might be in the millions. So how can you be sure this spend is providing the best return for your business? Well, it's easy to oversubscribe, but by doing this can mean high-value software assets either being underutilized or in certain instances not being used at all. Whilst undersubscribing or underpurchasing can lead to a loss of productivity when users don't have access to the software they need, as well as potential non-compliances with software being used by more than is actually allowed. I call this the Goldilocks conundrum. Not too many, not too few is the ideal fit. So how can we find this right balance? Well, the answer is simple. It's data. So let me ask you 3 questions. Right here, right now, can you answer these with honesty and accuracy? Who is using what software? How often are they using it? And for how long? So we're going to get a bit of interaction now. And Nicole is going to open up a poll and you have 4 options. The first is we have tools in place that can provide this level of information. We have manual processes that track where our software is installed, but no tools to actually measure usage. We've got a general idea, or like a gut feel of where the software is used across the estate, but no data to back this up. Or option 4 is I cannot honestly answer these questions. So Nicole, if you can open the poll.
Thank you, Kevin. That is now live for everyone to answer, so we'll just leave that open for a little while. At the moment, it seems like the second option is in the lead. Okay. We can track where software is installed, but can't see usage.
Measuring usage, that's interesting. Yeah, very insightful. So the majority seems to be option 2. So in terms of tracking where software is actually installed is obviously a critical point in terms of asset management, but no real insight in terms of software usage. Do we need to let this run a couple more minutes, Nicole, or shall we move on?
I think that's done. We've got 75% voted, so we'll close that now. So thank you.
Thanks everyone for your input. You're in the right place if you want to really learn about software usage. So here we go. So why is it important to have this level of detail? Well, by having accurate information on software usage, you can actually make informed, evidence-based decisions about your future software strategy. Over recent years, we've seen software vendors dramatically changing their licensing models. For example, a couple of years ago, Autodesk chose to end the sale of multi-user subscriptions and offer a 2-for-1 trade-in to named users. One of the challenges at the time was identifying what the actual usage ratio of that particular software was, and would the Autodesk offer fulfill their needs, or could they actually reduce their subscription count and ultimately reduce spend? Also, more recent introduction of Flex, whereby occasional users of software can access what they actually need and consume using Flex tokens. This makes it more important to identify when a person's software usage will cross the threshold of being more cost effective to actually adopt the Flex usage model or to continue with the name usage model. Now, CQFlexMon is not just limited to Autodesk products and subscription models. Yes, typically our customers engage a discussion and we start to monitor their Autodesk CAD software. But as soon as it leads on to other vendors on their estate, such as Adobe, Bluebeam, Ansys, Bentley, Dassault, PTC, Aviva, and even Microsoft tools. And when should you consider adopting this? Well, in order to create a well-rounded picture of software usage, we need to have CQFlexMon in place really for about 3 months. So if you have a software renewal on the horizon, don't hesitate to take action on this. The longer CQFlexMon is capturing information, the more meaningful and valuable the reports and data will be from it. And what kind of results can you expect by having this insight into software usage? Well, later in the presentation, we'll be hearing from Jeremy Turner of RT Systems and Solutions about his experience of CQFlexMon. But based on my own experience, within the first 6 months of our first UK deployment of CQFlexMon on a customer site, they experienced savings of over 6 figures through optimization of their existing software estate. So, as we go through the next 40 to 50 minutes on this presentation, I'd like you to keep these 3 questions in mind. Who are using what software? How often are they using it? And for how long? And also, add a 4th question. What value would this information mean to our business? With that, I'll now hand over to Jeremy Vesey for the solution demonstration. Jeremy, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, so yeah, I'm Jeremy Vesey. Bit of introduction. I've worked in for Symmetry now since 1998 in the IT solutions team. Historically been involved in a lot of the Autodesk deployments, and CQFlexMon has sort of come into the IT solutions team, so I've been taking a look at that. So I'll show you through a quick demo of the configuration of what we can do and some of the reports of what the data we can actually get. So what I'll do is I'll take you through the configuration. So CQFlexMon really was created a long time ago looking at LM tool server, so FlexLM, your multi-user licenses.
Sorry, Jeremy, really... are you sharing the demo at the moment?
Yes.
No, we can't see that, sorry.
Let's have a look. That's the one. There we go. Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
That's perfect. So yeah, like I said, LM Tools. CQFlexMon was created really to look at the LM tool server and really get your usage statistics from those multi-user subscriptions. So obviously the multi-user subscriptions very well optimized. You know, people checking in licenses and checking them out. So it's really then the customers asked us, how can we start to monitor the usage of AutoCAD LT? So that then prompted us to have a look at more modules for CQFlexMon. So like Kevin mentioned, it doesn't just then stop at Autodesk. We can start to monitor any executable file really on the user's desktops and the laptops. So CQFlexMon sits on a server or a workstation. It uses SQL as a database, can be SQL Express. Some customers have a full SQL server, so we will install CQFlexMon on a server, but actually have the database on the SQL server. It uses IIS as well, and what that does, the IIS, so the data actually gets sent to IIS and then into the database. So we can see that we've got some SQL configurations here, and what we'll do is you can actually have multiple different databases. So some customers throughout a period of time may have a database. If SQL Express runs out of space, we can actually keep that database. You can still look at the historical data, but actually start a new database and carry on. Within the configuration of CQFlexMon, we've got some SMTP settings. So this greatly helps with reporting. And when you start to create reports, we can then get those reports sent straight to people's mailboxes. So the license server, so like I mentioned, it starts to look at FlexLM servers, and some customers may have one FlexLM server. They've got multiple services on it. So you might have Autodesk, you might have Amtech, ID8, navigate. Loads of different services use the FlexLM licensing. So in here, we would populate the list of the FlexLM servers, and CQFlexMon would just go off, communicate with the FlexLM server, get the information of the usage statistics every 5 to 10 minutes, populate that in the database. So we can actually add in here multiple FlexLM servers, or even if you've just got the one FlexLM server with several services, we would just add the port in here and actually have these. Now, over the years, customers have asked us different license managers. What license managers can we monitor? And actually, these are the ones that we can monitor today. So you may see some familiar ones here like Zoo. If customers yourselves use Rhino, it may use the Zoo license server. Some other licensing technologies like CodeMeter, Sentinel HASP, and Sentinel RMS. So over the time, we've added these in, and obviously then every single customer can have that. So Active Directory, so CQFlexMon server will look at Active Directory. So we don't write anything into Active Directory, but we just read. The key thing there really is to get some information in terms of department data, and really to transpose the username from a username to an actual, a proper name. So usernames can be quite different. They could be ABC123, but it could be John Smith. So we start to look at the reports. We don't want the actual name onto that report. So, and moving forwards, what we've started to do, we can add in any particular Active Directory attribute in here. So as you've transitioned, as some customers have transitioned across from network licenses to user assigned, obviously people start to log in with their email addresses. And so what we do here is we add in the user principal name, which will give us the email address. So onto the a bit later on, I'll explain about the new module in CQFlexMon. That comes in handy because we'll have the email address, which then ties into the Autodesk portal. So as I've mentioned, CQFlexMon was looking at FlexLM servers and license managers. When we started to look at how to monitor AutoCAD LT, we decided, well, how can we do that? So we're going to need something to sit on the workstations and the laptops. And we created a local service package. So it's a tiny little MSI file, about 2 to 3 meg, that you can push out using a variety of technologies, PDQ, SCCM, or Intune. And that sits on the desktops, on the workstations, the laptops, and collects information of what executable files we need to monitor. So as you can see here, there's quite a few executable files in here, and they're mainly really from the AEC collection suite, a variety of Autodesk products. But you can see ACAD LT. So obviously, like I mentioned, it's not a license manager product, so we have to monitor it as an executable. So what the local service package has, it has 2 roles really. It talks to the CQFlexMon server to receive the list of executable files that we want to monitor. So what we can do is here, we can actually populate that list with any executable file that we want. Notepad, Outlook, Excel, SketchUp, any particular executable. Adobe's quite a popular one, and it's really any executable file that's a paid subscription is really wants to be monitored. So we would add those in, add the executable files in. Now, another option that the local service package does, the second thing that it does, is it's a SAM module. So this is specifically written for Autodesk software and only Autodesk software. So this will greatly help our customers have a look at their estate and get a good idea of how compliant they are, or certainly help towards making them compliant, or even just giving them a bit more information of what's on workstation. So I'll show you a report when we get into the reporting side of what that does. So that's the 2 roles that the local service does, and that really does depend on how you purchase CQFlexMon, what modules you purchase, Application Monitor or the SAM module. So in the configuration also, we have the job scheduler. So within the job scheduler, this is where we would actually create an Active Directory job, for instance. So this is where we just read those information in from Active Directory. And we don't do that very often. We may do that once a day in the evening, just to collect any new users that have created. So when we do the reports, we're actually picking up the correct information. We also do an analyze. So the analyze is where the local service package has detected that an executable file has been run. It sends the information into the database. So the database then sits there and says, I've got acad.exe that's been run on a specific PC. What then happens is CQFlexMon will actually analyze that data, because ACAD, for instance, if you open up AutoCAD 2019 or 2020, it uses the same executable, so just ACAD.exe, the same as Revit. So some software that monitors may be able to tell you that John has opened up ACAD.exe for 4 hours. But what we do is we analyze the data. And what we do there is we analyze, where has it come from? Where has that executable file actually come from? We analyze the path information. Has it come from a directory that says AutoCAD space 2019 / ACAD.exe? If it has, we analyze the data, and we can certainly say that it's AutoCAD 2019. So we can give you really granular information of what's going on. And that's what we do. We run an analyze job really every 10 minutes. So when you run the reports, you're getting that analyzed data. You're not just getting ACAD.exe, you're getting the actual version. Another job that we might well run in here is to create reports. So like I mentioned, we can create reports in here. We can create them in the client, but we can also schedule the reports. So some customers of CQFlexMon will want to use or want to see the data every month, the previous AutoCAD usage for the previous month. So we come in here and we'll create a particular job, either a license monitor job, license usage, application usage, or a SAM job. Then we can output it. Where do we want to output it? So we can output that to a UNC path, a server share that everyone goes to, and they can actually see that data on a regular basis. We could actually populate it to an FTP site, or if we've set up the SMTP settings, we can actually send that to a mail recipient or multiple people. And then we can obviously schedule that as well. So that's the jobs, really, the job scheduler. The application info. So this is really where it comes from, that analysis of the data. So what that does, which is where we actually pick up the data, and we can actually say that 3D Studio Max 9, for instance, the application caption. So when you open up an application, there's always an application caption. So what we do is we look at the executable file. We also analyze the caption to see if it can get that caption. If it matches something in our database, we can then say it's actually going to be this particular product. So what we actually do there, in a license perspective, it has to take a feature code from FlexLM. So we've got a list of feature codes in here. So the combination of an application caption plus a feature code, and even an application path. So a good example is some customers might want to monitor Rhino, for instance. There's multiple versions of Rhino, Rhino 6 and Rhino 7, for instance. And again, it uses the same executable file of rhino.exe. So what we do there, we actually add in a new customer row for you. So this is the default information you get, and we update this on a regular basis. So as Autodesk programs come out, 2023 and Adobe, we'll automatically do an update. But we can add in the customer rows. So some customers want us to monitor Safe or Rhino. So Rhino 6 and Rhino 7, the only differentiator between it is really in a directory. It's Rhino space 6 and Rhino space 7. So what we do there in the application path, we actually add that data in. So instead of actually producing a report to say Rhino has been run, we can actually analyze it and actually say Rhino 6 and Rhino 7. So again, giving you that granular information, because knowing what version, it's great to find out who's using what product for how long, but if it was Rhino, it could be that we need to actually find out it's Rhino 6 and Rhino 7, because especially from an Autodesk perspective, as you upgrade your subscriptions to 2023, the versions actually disappear. You can only have a certain amount of versions back, so it's quite key information. And in here as well, the SAM module. So to do with the SAM module, the Autodesk SAM module, we can add in the customer assets, and I'll show you a report of what we can produce for that. So we add in the assets, therefore we know that it's a customer asset. So when we produce a SAM report, we can actually show you the correct information and actually serial number information of what's been picked up on the workstations. So we'll have a look now in terms of the configuration. That's really it. And a lot of the times the configuration, once it's configured, you don't have to go back in there. The only time you may go back in there is to open it up and add some more executable files in, or some analysis, or actually create some scheduled reports. So this is the CQFlexMon client. And this can be installed on as many devices as you want. And this is really for the people that actually want to look at the data and actually make those decisions on the licensing. So we'll have a look at a license monitor. So this is information that's come from a FlexLM server. So we can see here that this FlexLM server had Amtech, Autodesk, ID8, Tekla, so lots of different information, but we'll have a look at the Autodesk. So in this demo database, we've got some information in Q1, but you can pick obviously timeframes. If you had multiple servers, you can actually target specific servers. And then we can have a look at the result. And this is going to give us a good idea of exactly what's been going on from that FlexLM server for the period of time. So this is really purely numbers. So we can see that that FlexLM server has 93 licenses of FlexLM of AutoCAD AEC collection. And actually, as we look at the list, we can start to see that the numbers are getting up, 84 licenses. And actually, we're starting to hit some peaks. So these peaks is where we're interested in. So great from a perspective, but we can look at that data and that's fine. But what we can do is we've got our own Excel engine also within CQFlexMon. So there's nothing stopping you from actually copying and pasting this information with headers and taking it into a quick email, or actually taking it into Excel and producing your own graph. But we have some default charts. So we'll have a look at this chart. So what this will do is it will take that information, populate it into a preset CQFlexMon template, and actually show us the information. So we can see here that we've got some those peaks. So those red, really dark red peaks where we've hit those limits of 93, we can see quite clearly. We can see the weekends, but also we can see some information here. So there's a big gap of licenses that are constantly in use for a period of time. So from a FlexLM perspective, there's a couple of things that you can do immediately. It could be that your inactivity timeout has not been set. So the inactivity timeout could be where people have, you set the inactivity, they go out to a meeting but leave the product open. When it's due to hit that limit, it will actually put that license back on the server. Could also be that people have borrowed licenses, but it's a very, very good visual way of seeing your licenses, because actually when you look at the this heat map, we can see those peaks, but we can see that there's 20% of licenses that are always in use. It could be that people are rendering and actually using those licenses, but actually we need to find out why that is. And we take that a bit granular and actually give you a heat map also of exactly where that particular data is being used. So again, you can see that 20% of your licenses are actually being used all of the time. So that's quite a big chunk of licenses there. So that's good from a license number perspective, but actually who's using what product. So again, from the FlexLM server, what we'll do is we'll actually pick the yearly versions this time rather than subscription pack, and see the same data. So we've picked up all the computer names. So again, you could filter out on some computer names. You could have some remote desktop computer names and actually have that information, so we can create some groups in here of remote desktop workstations. We could actually create some user groups as well. If you had specific users on specific projects, we could do that as well. So it's very, very flexible. And we'll pick the time frame, and again, we can see this information. So what this will do is this won't give us numbers. This will give us who's using what product. And what this will do, this will actually show us some information here. So we can start to see here that these particular users are using this software from your FlexLM server, and for how long. So we've got some good statistics here. So it's really, really useful when you're transitioning from multi-user to user-assigned licenses. Who's using what product? Shall I give them an AEC collection license? Well, actually, some of these users across this period of time had only ever used AutoCAD. So an AEC collection license may be too expensive, and it's absolutely pointless if they're only going to ever use AutoCAD. And then we start to look at the statistics, like Kevin mentioned on the Flex tokens. Are they a good candidate for Flex tokens? So this is really the information, like Kevin mentioned, 3 months worth of information there. The more information you've got, and depends on the period you've got. If it's over a holiday period, we might need to obviously just have a look at that, but a longer period of time, we can really get some really, really useful information. We can actually see when they've actually used these particular products also. So these particular products have been in use. And again, we've got some default templates here. So this one will show us this particular information, but obviously in graphical form with different tables and different pivot tables. So we can actually take, that's why we take a lot of the information in from the yearly version. So we could pick AutoCAD 2019 and take that in, but actually you're limiting the amount of information you're getting into Excel. So what we do is we actually take in the yearly versions, and then we can start to have a look at the pivot tables and pick on a specific product rather than just have one product in the Excel spreadsheet. So we can start to see here different graphs, different usages of different licenses. Usage per company. So some customers may have different AD companies or department information, so we can actually populate in that in the graph as well. Hours per server. So again, if you had multiple FlexLM servers, you could see in here a particularly heavily utilized FlexLM server and actually work out why is that heavily utilized. Hours per license. So some people think Revit's their main product, but quite clearly AutoCAD is a very high used product in this environment. Hours per company, again, if it was split. Hours per server you can do. Unique users. This is a key one, unique users, especially when you're transitioning from multi-user to network to user assigned. We've got here that this amount of information, 225. So 93 licenses have actually serviced 225 unique users. So a 2-for-1 offer would give you 186 licenses. You potentially need to buy more licenses. It could be the other way around, that actually it's 120 licenses, in which case a 2-for-1 offer is very, very good, and you're going to be completely covered in licenses. So what we'll do now is we'll have a look. That was basically information coming from a FlexLM server. So really, once you've transitioned across from multi-user to user-assigned licenses, we need to monitor it and use a different module. So this is all now coming from the local service package. So that service package is monitoring the executable files on your desktops, on your laptops. And again, we produce the same information. So we have a look here in terms of the information, and we've got what information are coming from those workstations. So again, we know these people are using these products for this amount of time. So it's very, very handy. Once you've transitioned, do they need an AEC collection license still? Some users are using multiple different products out of the suite. Some users are using AutoCAD software only. And then we start to see the information. Again, we've got very, very granular information here of what we're actually got. And then there's some reports, again, default templates. This template is exactly the same as the previous one, so it will show you that information and unique users. This one is very, very handy to see. So what we do here is actually flip the data on its head. So it's great to see who's using what product for how long, but sometimes it's nice to see who isn't using a product. So what we do is once we've seen their name in the database, we actually flip it on its head and actually look at the data, calculate the data, and have a look at the inactivity. So what this report will start to show is a heat map of the usage, but actually how much data, how much people aren't using the product. So what we can see on this one is on the heat map, we'll see some information of very, very low frequent users. So total usage across that quarter of an Autodesk product, very, very high. These are the high users. These are the real ones that are using that Revit, AutoCAD software day in, day out. These are the people that we might need to find out what they're actually doing. So this user at the bottom has used one piece of Autodesk software across that period of time. So we need to find out if he had an AEC collection license assigned to him once you've transitioned, we need to find out if that's actually needed. It could be that they've opened up a drawing to actually use it, but actually view it. Could it be that that user needs to have the AutoCAD license removed, the AEC collection license removed, and actually have a viewer installed on the workstation? It could be. What we don't want to do is stop people from using the software, but what we do want to make sure is that the customers yourselves are actually making those subscriptions and making the correct decisions based on that. A lot of vendors are starting to go to obviously subscription-based models. You have to pick how many licenses you've got. So we need to make this decision based on this data. So a lot of these people could be, like I say, have a viewer, but they could also have flex tokens, the new model. If their usage statistics are under a certain threshold, it is beneficial to actually purchase flex tokens and actually use those. So when they open up the software, they've still got the same ability to do whatever they want in the products, but actually you're consuming tokens, and actually you don't have to then assign a license. And also it stops that admin overhead. There's no real admin overheads of the network licenses. The licenses just check themselves in, check themselves out. But if you've got to assign a license and de-assign a license, it can be quite an admin overhead there. So there's another report that is quite a good report, default report that we've got. and we've got unique users. So what this does, and quite key for the Autodesk stuff, because like I mentioned, if you purchase your 2023 subscription, the previous versions drop off. So you can only be using or entitled to use certain versions. So here we can start to see that across that period of time, we've got 92 unique users of AutoCAD, and actually break that down into versions. So here we go, we've got AutoCAD 2016 still in use, and 2017. Now, if you're on a 2023 subscription and you've not got special dispensation from Autodesk to use those particular versions, it could be an issue if Autodesk come in and do a scan. And really, in terms of AutoCAD, there should be no reason why you can't use the latest version of the AutoCAD software, because you can always save back to a previous version. But it's a handy way to see that 3 people are still using this. Now, we see a big peak here. You won't really see the big peaks in terms of Revit, because it could be your Revit project as actually needs to be in a specific version, because it's obviously Revit is specific version dependent. If you're working with multiple contractors, everyone has to go up that version. So that's why we normally see a flatter, a more level across the different versions of Revit. But again, it's interesting to see that 7 people are still using Revit 2016. And again, these are default templates, and these are templates that can be used with other software, not just Autodesk. So we can produce the same report for Adobe. So Adobe software, exactly the same. And we can actually see who's using that particular product, set for the unique versions per. So you don't have to purchase the Creative Cloud. Could be you can actually purchase some Photoshop licenses. So exactly the same way of working. It will show you exactly the same report based on those. And that's why we do that analyze of data of Rhino 6 and Rhino 7 to give you this granular information within CQFlexMon. So the next module really is the SAM module. So this is that Autodesk module, and only Autodesk, where you can run a scan. And we can have a look here and show the information. So the local service package has been running on the workstations, and it's been populating the database. So we can start to have a look in here of all the different data of what we've got. So what this will do is this will start to show a good picture of what's on those workstations. You might have some inventory software that will tell you that AutoCAD 2016 is installed on a PC. But actually, we take it a little bit further. We dig into different places on the PC to find out the information. So we can see here that we've got some customer assets. They're a network license type. So again, this can be very helpful when you're transitioning from network licenses to user assigned. You've got a network-based product installed. You have to then go into that product to change the license type to make it a user assigned piece of software. So this will help you with that, because it'll identify the exact license type of that software that's been installed. So we can start to see where it was installed from, where it's installed to, the license server that it's pointing to also. But more importantly, if we've added in all your customer assets, we can start to look at some expired contracts. This is the information that Autodesk may well be interested in if they run an audit on your environment. So we can see here that we've got AutoCAD 2015 still on an expired contract. So this is the stuff that we need to get rid of from the workstations. It could be very, very easy, the legitimate mistake that a reception's PC has failed. You get a new PC or a PC out of the server room that's not been wiped. It's got some very old Autodesk software on it. So someone could be using just Outlook, but actually on the PC, unbeknown to you, is actually very, very old software that you now don't have a subscription for. So it's not about just literally the usage of the software and the subscriptions. It really, really helps you clean up your environment and just make sure that you're as compliant as you can be. So it's really just adding these tools to it. So that's really the license monitor, license usage, application usage module, and the SAM module. And then really what we've got, the next module that's coming out, and it's out actually, it's been released very, very recently. So the next module really is from the Manage Autodesk. So once you've transitioned across to user assigned licenses, we still want to use CQFlexMon to actually monitor that. And what we do is, because we've got the usage statistics of the products, we can start to look to see whether people have different licenses assigned. Within the Autodesk portal, you could assign an AEC collection license, an AutoCAD license, a Revit license, and Flex tokens. So what we do is we get an export of the CSV file. You can export the CSV file straight out of the Autodesk portal. You'd place it into a certain directory. CQFlexMon would import that. What we then do is we can then start to look at that data. We can start to look at that data in combination with the usage statistics. So we know that certain users have used AutoCAD, Revit, Navisworks. So what are they actually got? What are they actually using? So we can start to see here, this is the picture that we would get. We'd get the usernames from the portal, and we'd actually get what license has been assigned to them. So we know that they've got an AEC collection license assigned. This user has flex tokens. So we can actually start to see some real decent information. An easier way of working out, they've got a license assigned to them, are they using it? So we've got some usage statistics. So we can see here, classic example, that an AEC license has been assigned, but flex tokens has been assigned. They've actually used these products, but they've not been using flex tokens. So it's really, really handy moving forwards once you've transitioned to get this type of information. So some customers, when a user leaves, for instance, they may well populate Active Directory to say that there's an end of employment. So they'll ultimately potentially delete that account or disable that account. If that's an Active Directory attribute that's in Active Directory, we can obviously populate that. So this scenario, these people have ended employment, but actually they've still got licenses assigned. So it's a complete waste. They're not going to use their licenses. Their AD account may well have been disabled, plus their email address. We need to deassign those licenses. So again, it's all about trying to get your subscriptions as lean as possible and as optimized as possible to make sure that you can make those decisions. And then we can also take that into Excel. So there's going to be some default reports for the Manage Autodesk module as well. And then we've got here, so the grace period. So in terms of flex tokens, I think you can open up AutoCAD products for 5 minutes before it starts to consume tokens. So what we do is we take that into consideration when we're trying to calculate the flex token usage. What we want to be able to do is tell you that the AutoCAD product is in use and how long has it been used for, and is it worth swapping those people over. So the previous graph I showed you on the heat map where we've got one usage, we want to then know, is that usage worth them being migrated to a flex token license or AEC license or AutoCAD? So this we can see here that this user has opened up this product, but they've only used it for 3 minutes. So it hasn't actually consumed tokens. Therefore, we don't actually calculate that as a usage. So it wouldn't show up on the particular graph. This one is where we've got a default information as well, where we can start to see that multiple products have been assigned in the portal. So they've got Flex plus they've got AEC, and we can start to marry up those ones. So they could be using AutoCAD out of here or AutoCAD Flex. So it's really just to highlight the issue again, that different people have different things assigned to them, and really just go into the portal, have a check, and just to make sure that everything is assigned correctly, either Flex or AEC, but you wouldn't have both. High token usage. So if they've got a Flex user and you put them onto Flex tokens, we actually want those Flex tokens. You want to make sure that the Flex tokens are getting consumed correctly. And if they're going to be on a Revit project full time, you need to move them off the Flex tokens and move them to an AEC collection or a Revit license. And this will give you that information. So we can see here the amount of times that these people have Flex tokens, and they've actually got 159 usages. How many Flex tokens have they consumed? And we'll start to take this in with different colors into an Excel template as well and give you that information, because this user should not be on Flex tokens with that amount of usage. It should really, really be that they're on an actual proper AEC license. And again, this is where AEC license has been assigned to people, but they've had no usages across the period of time. So again, it's really, we've had people, it'll also tell us if people have been invited into the Autodesk portal. So one of the things when you go into the Autodesk portal, you have to invite your users into the portal. It could be, and we've had some scenarios where people have been invited into the portal, they've had an AEC collection license assigned to them, but they've never completed the invite. So it's completely pointless having that license assigned to them. Now, this will sort of confirm that, in effect, this will confirm that they've had an AEC license assigned to them, but they've actually had no usage data based on the application usage module. And that's it from me, really. So I think I'll hand over to Jeremy Turner, and he can discuss. He's a heavy user of CQFlexMon. He can carry on and just tell you the information that he's found from that.
Good afternoon to everybody. Here's a statement or a question I'm sure you've all seen before. What you don't know won't hurt you, right? Well, I'm Jeremy Turner, and I'm a director of RT Systems and Solutions. RT Systems is an MSP with technicians based around the country, founded in 1990, and we're partners with people like HPE, HP, Microsoft, and VMware. Myself, I've been in the industry since 1995, with the company since 2011, but a director since 2014, and I'm the account director for our largest client. And our largest client, it's a multidisciplinary construction consultants. They're fast approaching 1,000 employees. They have worldwide projects and have a large Autodesk estate. So where we were, well, we had a mixed Autodesk estate, AEC, AutoCAD LT, Revit LT, multi-user, standalone, AEC collections, and building design suites. We had a historical mix of perpetual subscription and maintenance to subscriptions. We had multiple contracts with multiple serial numbers. Now we had visibility of which computers Autodesk products were on, and it's very interesting to see the vote earlier on that I think a lot of people are in the same boat. However, we didn't know if the product was being used, how often, and how it was licensed, and also what serial numbers were being used. And the same could be said for the non-Autodesk applications as well. So what was the challenge? Well, license compliance was a really big challenge. We'd heard some horror stories around Autodesk license audits. So we needed to ensure all products were installed, had valid serial numbers, ensure the correct serial numbers, correct number of installs, I beg your pardon, per serial number, ensure unsupported versions were not being used and were removed from the computers. And from a usage perspective, ensure products were being used. So we were realizing the value of the investment, and also build up a picture of usage within the disciplines themselves. And again, the same could be said for the non-Autodesk application. So what were the results? Well, we installed CQFlexMon back in 2019, July 2019. It delivered and paid for itself immediately. Non-usage users, the product was removed and the licenses were reallocated, and that meant we didn't have to buy new licenses. So we had good visibility of that, and that was a cost avoidance. Low usage CAD users were given LT where we could, and again, that avoided us buying expensive licenses. The contention on the network license pool was understood, and again, users with high and low usage were swapped around, extending the period before buying more network licenses. And then CQ SAM was added in 2020, and that identified all the serial numbers that were being used in the estate, enabled us to clean up old serial numbers, and it was crucial for compliance. We also understood usage for non-Autodesk products, things like Rhino, Tekla, Luminum. It was mentioned earlier on, any product that had an exe file we could look at and look at the usage, who was using it, if they were, how long they were using it for. And now CQFlexMon reports are actually an integral part of our software renewal process, and we've saved many thousands of pounds on renewal costs with evidence-based usage. And then how CQFlexMon and CQ SAM saved our bacon. Well, Autodesk audited us in August 2020, and I'm pleased to say we had 100% compliance, which was, completely down to CQFlexMon showing us where we were non-compliant, and then us cleaning those things up. So we were very grateful. It paid for itself. I've heard some horror stories about some of the fines, and it paid for itself many times over. And then we've moved on to the 2-for-1 offer and the tokens. Again, CQFlexMon was crucial in understanding the network license pool contention. I think you saw that in Jeremy's demonstration. Would 2 sign-in licenses, term licenses, be enough to cover regular users? What would be the license usage cost for tokens? and Symmetry engaged with us really well. John Hind has been absolutely brilliant with this and has really assisted us along with Jeremy and some of the Swedish guys to really do deep dive of the analysis, and it allowed us to, or gave us a comfort factor that we could actually go to 2-for-1 and manage the users and the low usage users with tokens as well. So really, can't stress enough how much we're grateful that we went for the product, particularly from a timing perspective as well, because we got CQSam in fortunately before our audit, but it really has been a godsend. And so in summary, it's given us visibility of application usage and is an integral part of the software renewal process. CQSam has ensured continued license compliance, and as I said, Symmetry has been a real partner working with us to get the best value out for our customer, and our customer's been very appreciative of the efforts that ourselves and Symmetry have done. So that's it from me.
What we're also offering as well on the back of this is a 30-minute session with us. We realise that each organisation's kind of requirements and architecture and setup might be slightly different. So if you want to see how CQFlexMon can be applied to your specific environment and your requirements, then you can book in for a 30-minute session with us. You just scan the QR code there, and that will take you to the details in terms of how to book in on that. I'll leave it on screen now. I'll leave the call open for the next 3 minutes. But my final thing really is to say many thanks to Jeremy Bessie, Jeremy Turner for presenting today, and also thanks to Nicole for hosting the session. Without any further ado, we'll close off the call, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. So have a good day, folks.
Thanks all.
Thanks a lot.